hear a little prompt. And now I'll leave the floor to you, Jasjit and Katell.
All right. Hello, everyone. Katell, do you want to start or?
I leave it up to you because this morning we're mostly talking about ISEP, the INSEAD Social Entrepreneurship Program, which Professor Jasjit Singh is the director of. So I leave it over to you.
Okay, thanks. So I'm Jasjit. I'm an INSEAD professor in the strategy area, and I direct, as Katell mentioned, the INSEAD Social Entrepreneurship Program. Very excited that hopefully most, if not all of you, will ultimately join us there. It's our flagship program, basically at the intersection of business and societal issues, and that's why it aligns very closely with what the Cartier program tries to do as well. So we worked with them for, Gabriel, how many years now? 4 or 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, we've actually had a historic partnership with INSEAD since 2006, but more specifically with the ISEP program, I have to say, I think it's probably 5 years. Yeah.
So, and I've been involved with the program for about 8-9 years, directing it more or less since Cartier came in. But I was usually directing in Singapore, but also teaching in France. And since last 1 or 2 years, I've been directing on both campuses of INSEAD. So very excited to be to have you, most of you in the program. And just to give a little sense, my understanding from Gabrielle is that she wanted me to talk a little bit about, in particular, how the admissions process works. And so I just made a few notes to myself just to share, and happy to, I think, keep it interactive after that, which is normally, importantly, the Cartier crowd is not the only crowd in the program, right? So in fact, historically, the program was mostly non-Cartier before the program, the Women's Initiative came about. And the program targets anybody who's taking impact seriously, but is looking at business as a tool for achieving it. So what that ends up being is there's a little bit of spectrum of companies there. So it's a very broad tent. It can be somebody trying to have impact inside a large company. Let's say you're running an initiative within Unilever. It can be that you're running a large major organization, maybe Patagonia, maybe Tom's, maybe Impossible Foods, any of the names that you think, or a smaller venture that's aspiring to be like that, which is the intention is still to build a very profitable business that perhaps one day, hopefully, has major valuations of $1 billion or more. I mean, no harm having that kind of aspiration at least. But then importantly, we also have people who are very deliberately making choices where they are saying, we are working with very hard populations or very hard problems where actually we will not be making a lot of money necessarily. And that's all right, because business is still a lens. So, and narrowly speaking, this is what I call a social enterprise mindset, which is different from an impact business mindset. And you might have run into these two terms before, because these are terms that we always use, which is we call impact business when you're looking to have a strong societal impact, but at the same time, you're looking to build a rock solid business that will also grow, be profitable, hopefully make you rich, your employees rich, and all of that. But social enterprise, we reserve a term for somebody who's making very deliberate choices, saying, well, even if you build an impact business, sometimes you might not be able to serve people who are living in the most difficult places in the world, who are working on issues that are really hard to completely nail down with a profit first kind of model. So importantly, in ISEP, we give equal respect to both of those categories because we recognize that we need both of these kind of entrepreneurs. And then a small subset in ISEP, usually not that large, but there are some, are coming from the pure non-profit and development space who might not be doing business at all. They're saying, well, we are working on something where there's no chance that, we're working with people with disabilities, we're working with small children in rural areas, in poor countries where there's no business model, but these are still important issues. And importantly, the focus then becomes, we are going to still have a business-like approach in terms of really having the systems, measurement data, all of that, to make sure that we are building a robust organization that can scale up and be successful at scale. So the first, I just wanted to give a sense of, there's an entire range of people, and some of this range is reflected in Cartier in the past as well. Though I recognize that impact businesses where most of you probably fall, though, it's a subset normally do overlap with social enterprise kind of thing. In the past, very often, some of those would be from sub-Saharan Africa or working in conflict zones and things like that. So that's sort of the overview. And I just want to just say 4 points on the admission process. So, I mean, the process itself, I think our priority deadline, Gabrielle has probably shared with you. I think it's sometime, I don't know if it's end of May or beginning of June. I mean, the timeline, Gabrielle.
So yeah, I haven't yet, but I was going to share it after this call. So,
okay.
With regards to the application process, the reason why we invited the INSEAD team to join this program update call is because we're actually going to be sending you the form early next week.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And so you have until June 15, if I'm not mistaken, to submit your form. So you have 6 weeks to complete it.
Right. So just to put you a little, put all of that a little bit in the context, so that you're not stressing about the form the way we stress about college applications and all of that. The context for this is that we have in our ISEP program, because of our partnership with Cartier, spots reserved for the Cartier applicants. What that means is, actually there's a spot reserved for all of you as long as you meet the threshold for admission. So you are priority in terms of the slots. So first of all, you're not fighting for any slots. The second is, the understanding is that most, if not all of you, should be able to get admitted. But you still go through a process just to make sure that there's the fit. And to a large extent, the fact that you're a Cartier finalist, you actually should, most if not all of you, should meet the thresholds at a broad level, both on that business side and the impact side. But I'll tell you 4 things that I particularly look for, and the team that particularly looks for, which is, so first of all, don't stress about it. Most of you, if not all of you, will make it if you take it seriously. So that's the first point, which is, don't blow up the application process, because that's perhaps one of the easiest ways to sort of not get your slot, which is, we want to see that this is a program that you're actually interested in, committed to, and to be fair to all applicants, we are still going to take you through our screening process, though our screening process to a large extent actually mirrors what Cartier has already done. So it would actually be a huge surprise for me if something went through Cartier screening and doesn't make it to our screening, as long as you fill that application and just normally. So that's the first thing. And in your application, you'll find questions both on the business side and the impact side, which is, what's your business model? How well is it working? What is the current scale? What are the challenges? Who are you trying to impact? What are your recent achievements? What are your goals? Very importantly, we are not looking for perfection here, because in fact, if we find perfection, we are not going to admit you, because there's no reason for you to be in the program if there's nothing to learn in the program, right? So we are looking for somebody who's seriously impact driven. Okay, that's sort of the second condition. So the first is taking application seriously. The second is taking impact seriously, and not just taking it for granted, which is, a lot of times what happens is people say, hey, I'm serving poor population, so there's naturally impact. It's actually, as I'm sure most of us are aware, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. You have to think harder on, well, you could be serving alcohol to poor populations, or you can giving them loans that get them into a debt trap, which actually makes their standard of living worse rather than better. So just, are you thinking about these issues genuinely in terms of, yes, just the fact that I'm able to sell the products doesn't always mean that I'm having the impact. Am I solving important problems in their lives? For example, if you're targeting poor people. Similarly, on the environmental side, if you're selling a product as an environmental product, but that's one more product that people buy, and they continue to buy the environmentally damaging product. So it's not clear you improve the world. So it's thinking a little bit harder on how your being in the world improves the world, right? So that's sort of the second question, which is the first is taking application seriously. Second, strong commitment to impact. The third, and this sort of I already mentioned, is a eagerness to learn, and the fact that ISEP actually will add to your learning, which is what are your learning goals? And take a look at our website, and it could be, by the way, for one or two of you, you look at the website and you say, you know what, this program is not a fit for me. And that's all right. You shouldn't feel bad about it. You shouldn't feel bad about telling Gabrielle that that's the case. Hopefully that's not the case for any of you, but if it ends up being the case, that's a perfectly fine, honest answer saying, for what I'm looking for, this actually does not fit. So we are looking for eagerness to learn and whether ISEP actually will contribute towards your goals. And the last thing is, I mean, it might seem somewhat counterintuitive, but over the past 10 years, for me, this has become the #1 trait for somebody to be successful in the impact space, and that's humility, which is what we don't like to have in the room is people who say, yes, I'm a fantastic impact entrepreneur. I'm changing the world, and there's nothing that you can tell me that will help me improve. There's nothing that any of the other people in the room, the other participants have to say that would be relevant for me to become better. I'm here basically to tell you how good I am and to tell you how to do things. So I've come to realize, and this is not just about this program, I'm just saying across the board, in my MBA program, EMBA program, dealing with executives. And one of the most admirable things I've noticed is normally people, the longer they stay in the impact space, the more humble they become. And by the way, this includes me as a professor. So I started teaching in this space 10 years ago, saying, I was teaching business strategy. I'm going to come to this space now and I'm clean it up because who are these all these touchy-feely guys teaching these frameworks which make no sense and all of that. And every year that goes by, I feel that I need to learn a lot more. So I actually get a lot of learning out of interacting with all participants and including all the Cartier people in the program. And that's why I teach, which is learning is a lifelong journey. And I think that mindset is super important, both for you to get something out of the program and also very importantly, it's a joint learning exercise. And so we want to make sure people are coming with that. So I'll stop there. I really didn't have anything more. I perhaps already took more than my allotted time. But Gabrielle, feel free to run it from here the way you see it.
No, thank you. I think that was a very useful reminder. And it actually also mirrors the values that we're looking for in our fellows. So you'll find, I think most of them have that growth mindset that you're looking for.
Yeah, I would expect as well.
I don't know if Katell and Kim want to add anything before we move on.
So maybe, yes, thank you very much. Thanks, Jasjit. I'm just going to add a few things. So just maybe about INSEAD, just in case that's needed. So we are a business school. Our tagline is business school for the world. It's a business school with, I mean, its main specific characteristic, it's the diversity of the crowd that comes to INSEAD when it comes to geographic representation. Right now, in the MBA cohort we have on our campus, we have people from 84 countries, and none of these countries represent more than 12% of the population of the cohort. We have campuses, as Jasjit was mentioning, mainly in Fontainebleau and in Singapore, but we also have campuses in Abu Dhabi and in San Francisco. I'm mentioning them in two different groups because our faculty is mostly present in equal manner in France and Fontainebleau. So that's where most of the faculty and the senior management sits year long. But we also have a presence in Abu Dhabi and in San Francisco. And actually for me, I worked on sustainable development my whole career. And the reason why I joined INSEAD and I was interested in joining that particular business school to advance that agenda at the interface of business and society was that diversity. Because what that means is that in the classroom, and that's the case for ISEP, but that's the case for most of the degree program that we also have in Fontainebleau, you have perspective from different countries. And that means two things. The first one, it means that in terms of how things are being taught, it's not dogmatic, because you have no like right way of doing things, because as we know, everything is very context specific. And so the way that INSEAD teaches bring that specificity in the classroom, that makes it both interesting, but I think also a little bit challenging for faculty members, because they cannot come with a fixed mindset on how things should happen. And it also, I think, brings that element of consideration from one participant to the next. And that's what Jasjit was mentioning at the end. It's really about the respect for others' perspective, which, you know, are of equal value. So I wanted to highlight that. I also wanted to highlight that for the past few years, actually since 2014, the senior management and the Dean of INSEAD in particular have made I think, bold and important commitment to business as a force for good, to promoting business as a force for good. And that is a specific positioning of the school as well. And while we still have some work to do, the objective of that is to make sure that everybody who comes to INSEAD campuses is both made aware and then also is equipped to go back to a job. If it's the same or not the same, it doesn't matter, where they can both exemplify and push for that agenda to make business and active participants of societal progress. As I said, we still have some work to do, but that's a clear marked objective, which is considering basically impact not as a sideshow, but really as something that we're trying to integrate in all the programs that we do at INSEAD. And I joined INSEAD for that reason, to come and create a new institute, which is the Hoffman Global Institute for Business and Society, which is working at the school level, at the institutional level, to try and advance that agenda. And we're working with you around your learning journey that includes the ISEP program. So obviously, Jasjit is one of the professors we work very closely with, is part of this push. And whatever industry you are in, whatever function you have, and whatever model you have, social entrepreneurship or business for impact, or how did you say, Jasjit, impactful business, whatever it is, wherever it is, everybody can make a difference. And that's what we strongly believe in. So obviously myself and Kim, who also works in the Institute, we are, that's all we talk about, that's all we do all day. But increasingly, we have to say that our faculty body at INSEAD is not just convinced, but also pushing for that agenda. And as you know, that's a main train. So I just wanted to flag this, as this is also a key feature of the school in general. And my final point is to congratulate all of you for making it into this fellowship, which I think is just fantastic. Looking at it and working closely with Gabrielle and the team, I'm just thrilled that we'll be meeting with you, discussing with you, learning about your journey, because it's so extremely inspiring for us. And when we talk about business as a force for good, what you are doing, who you are, also embodies that. And we need to, this is the energy we want to bring in our school. So I just also wanted to finish with that point. Thank you very much.
Can I just add one thing to what I had said? This reminds me. So the whole notion of business as a force for good, and when I use the word impact, you know, and that has almost become buzzword that we'll go much more into. But the point is, you're working with an explicit intention of positively affecting society, but you might all be doing it in very different ways, right? Some might be very focused on environmental issues at a global level. Somebody might be doing on social issues at a very local level in poor communities. Some might have a very strong gender lens. So we really welcome that diversity, you know, so there's not one mold. You don't have to think that, oh, in my application, I need to talk about poor people, or I need to for sure bring about environment. We would really like your application to be an honest description of what you do. That's whether you have achieved this and you still need to achieve that. That's not going to be a criterion on which we are saying, oh, no, this person hasn't achieved enough yet, so we can't admit that. We just want to learn more about you. That's why we are asking those questions. Thank you.
Jasjit, you also want to mention also how you are, because that's also true. I mean, how you also considering the application in order to tailor the program, right? So that you have
absolutely. And part of the reason we ask you, you'll say, hey, you know, if this slot is reserved, why do I have so many questions in the form? And the reason is, you will notice that by the time you show up in our classroom, we already know a lot about you. And that every now and then some example of something will pop up that you would relate to. And that's partly because we are very sensitive to who's in the room in the program that we design, because a lot of the program is actually very discussion based. So if the stuff isn't relevant for you, it's not useful. So a big reason for asking such detail is not to say, hey, do you qualify or not, but for us to really understand who you are, because it's a pretty intense 1 week program. That's a lot of content, and we do adapt the content based on who's finally coming. Thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you so much, Jasjit and Katell. And Kim, is there any final word you want to add before we move on?
Perhaps just to mention that as you are filling out your applications, if you wish to don't hesitate to take a few minutes to look at the website for the Hoffman Institute, and you'll see that we publish stories that we try to publish inspirational stories about actions and initiatives that individuals or organizations take to really have an impact in the social entrepreneurship space. So we do have some stories, testimonies, and we also hope in the future to connect more with our ISEP graduates to follow, and we hope to connect more with and publish more stories. So I just wanted to mention that that's something we very much look forward to doing, and perhaps we'll be reaching out to you in a couple of years' time after you've taken the program, so that we can follow you and find out what you've been up to. That's something that we're particularly keen on exploring.
Thank you so much, Kim. And yeah, I just want to also add that we will be sending you the form on Friday of this week, so that you can have 6 weeks to complete it, and we will be expecting you to send it by June 11th. So those are the dates I will share with you in my weekly recap on Friday.
And if you have any questions, feel free to just drop me an email. I think there's a general ISEP address, but I'm putting my email address there, or you can get it from Gabriel. Feel free to, if you have any questions at any point about ISEP, just drop us, because for us, we're always very excited to have the Cartier crowd there. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Don't stress about the application. Just think of it as us really wanting to know more about you, and just take it seriously, and it's going to be fun.
In fact, actually, I go so far as to say, since I know, Jasjit, that you can't stay on for the entire call, we usually have the Q&A at the end during the second half of the call. But
okay.
If any of our fellows have questions at this stage, I just want to pause for a minute, please feel free to unmute and ask your questions to the INSEAD team. I think it might take some time to sort of absorb all of what has just been said, but thank you so much. Oh, actually, Rana.
I think Rana
just
Yeah.
raise her hand. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I couldn't raise my hand on time, so. So one quick question. I'm not really familiar with the, with the program at all. We had your names, but I didn't look at it in advance. So I'm going to now go and look at it, and I'm sure I'm going to learn a lot from these, especially the stories mentioned at the very end. But one quick question is, what am I going to gain at the end of this? Why should I do this? Why should I, time is really critical right now in my life. So why should I spare my time for this?
So that's,
if there's
of course,
a quick answer for this.
Yeah, no, I think it's obviously a great question. 1 week is a lot of time, and for a lot of people that are coming in addition, it's also a lot of money. Fortunately, in this case, Cartier is kind enough to support. So our view is that it's not about sort of the 12 frameworks per se that we'll talk about. In fact, many of you would already have seen the frameworks. I find that most people find it helpful that a lot of issues that they were taking for granted actually are far more complicated and nuanced than they had assumed. Issues in particular of how do you combine a business agenda and impact agenda together. And especially how do you deal with, sometimes there are tensions and trade-offs versus how do you make it align. And then most people have some strong points, but some pieces they might not know as much about. So for example, there are modules on measuring impact. There are modules on impact investing, right? There are modules on business models. There are modules on strategy. There are modules on leadership. And the hope is, especially given that it's to a large extent very discussion-based anyway, so it's not like you could pick up a textbook and replace it with that. The other, I think, the real strength is the amazing about 35 odd people that we have in the room. I think every single person has something to teach to the rest. So you don't think of this as what does this professor have to teach you. Also think of it as, is there something that you could learn, for example, just right here in the call, right? Is there something useful you would learn if you were spending time with the rest of the people here, but in a very structured environment where somebody is guiding the learning? I mean, that's one way to approach it. And the last thing I would say is, I mean, if you look at my website, there's a few recordings there, including, I think, 1 or 2 videos of me doing something with ISEP graduates, including, I think there's a video of 3 of the Cartier participants from 2 years ago. So just take a look and see, you know, is the stuff that's happening in that 100% obvious to you, or is that useful? So if that half an hour is useful for you, chances are you'll find more of the discussions useful.
So maybe I just add a few points for having seen it live, a little bit more from the outside. I think it's a good time to come and take stock wherever you are in your impact journey. And as Jasjit said, in a structured manner with experts professional. So Jasjit is directly in the program, but there are other INSEAD faculty members who are coming to teach. So giving that, let's say, latest research and theory and evidence on particular topic like strategy or impact measurement. And then the conversation in terms of how that applies to a particular venture with different members of the cohort in the classroom. And the peer learning is extremely important, and that is hard to make it happen otherwise, in terms of the challenges that are faced that are then being articulated in the classroom, and then where the faculty member will provide the academic evidence piece to respond, but also other perspectives on it.
I think it sounds great. Thank you.
So it looks like we have another question from Natalie.
Hi, thank you. I'm super excited for the program. I'm sure all of us are. I just have a quick question because I'm from Hong Kong, and I just want to know, between like the French campus or the Singapore campus, is there any recommendation as to how to select which campus that would be a better fit? And I was also wondering, in terms of the cohort, is there a way for us to also know like who are the other students in the cohort that's already registered? So maybe that allows us to understand the networking piece of it as well.
So by design, the programs in terms of the basic content are supposed to be very similar. And I'm the director on both campuses. Because of not being able to fly faculty around, and it doesn't also make sense for cost and environmental reasons too much, we, I'll be on both campuses, but the smaller modules, like 2-hour or 4-hour modules, a few of them might be slightly different, but not in a substantial way. It just depends on faculty availability and so on. And that micro designing actually happens more July, August. So in terms of content, I would say take it as very similar. In terms of participants, very roughly speaking, I think this year it might be about 50% Cartier, 50% non-Cartier. So because the Cartier group is slightly bigger now, it used to be more like 30% Cartier, 70% non-Cartier. So the Cartier crowd will be diverse within, and you have a sense of that. And very often within Cartier as well as non-Cartier crowd, a majority would simply choose what is geographically convenient, right? But some very deliberately want to go to the other place, because every now and then I would have sort of for example, Indian participants showing up in France saying, Singapore, I've gone to 5 places, when am I going to come to France? The other thing that the only slight practical difference that ends up happening sometimes in the nature of discussions is because of that geographical affinity a little bit, discussions that the case studies would be very similar, but in broader discussions, it could be that more Europe relevant content might naturally come up a little bit in terms of examples if it's in Fontainebleau, and more Asia relevant in Singapore. And it's more, again, the nature of the examples, right? So somebody talking about how microfinance works in the villages of Cambodia or Indonesia, just as a random example, is more likely to come up here than somebody talking about mental health issues in the UK, in France, right? So for some people, it might be attraction. For some people, it might be, no, I actually want to hear about experiences of somebody very different. I would say the learning journey per se is going to be equally rich either way. If you really want to force yourself to geographically interact with people that are not from your region, then go to the other campus. If you're looking for convenience, come to the same campus. I would say 90% of the practical learning would be the same. It's also a matter of, this is your excuse to go to a place where you might not go, especially if Cartier is equally happy to pay for the longer flight, which I don't know what their policies are, but that would be my answer to that question.
Thank you.
Right. Yeah, I'm just going to add one more point to that, which is there is also a very practical aspect in terms of the network that you build and the continuous learning network. That's a good point. Yeah. What becomes of the graduates of that program, both from the Cartier's Fellows perspective, where basically you're building a cohort through this learning journey, as well as the ISEP participants. There is a life after the program for the people who've shared something which is quite special and intense during 1 week. And the experience has shown that obviously the ties are easier to maintain, both in terms of personal relation, but also in terms of peer support and peer learning after the program, when they are closer in terms of problematic, and also very practically closer in terms of time zone and possibility of meeting each other once again. So I think that's non-negligible, because if you have more things that you can share because your venture is in Europe or in the US or in Africa, I think it's important to consider that, because that support network is going to matter afterwards. It's not an easy journey, as you all know already. And so I think it's important to consider this, in addition to just traveling to a different region, I would argue.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I'm still on, about 4 or 5 years ago, we started having WhatsApp groups of the ISEP graduates. And normally the ISEP group is separate by campus because they've spent time with those. And I'm right now on 10 WhatsApp groups, for 2 per year for the last 4 or 5 years. So it's which tends to be exactly like Katell said, the one that came to Singapore would be in the time zones closer to Singapore and within a 4, 5, 6 hour flight typically. But as I said, there's 20% who would come very far. 80% typically would choose the closest campus, if I had to give a very rough number.
Can I ask one more thing? Is it possible to see the list of attendees from the INSEAD side to see which is a more relevant cohort for us?
Because the admissions actually will, for that, continue all the way till September. So right now we don't, June 15 is the first application deadline for us for everyone. So we don't, right now we are just getting in the application. So actually the reviews will happen in July, August. So the cohort is not even made. Having said that, I think you will find, I honestly think you will not be disappointed. I mean, it's just that it will be different, but not, I wouldn't use the word better or worse, because my humble view is that the kind of people we attract to ISEP, there's always something to learn from whoever it is on whichever campus it is.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I also wanted to add before we move on that, Jasjit did mention that there's maybe a larger crowd of Cartier Women's Initiative Fellows this year. And the reason why is because, as you know, we got hit with a major pandemic last year, and a lot of the programming that was supposed to happen for 2020 fellows got pushed back. So we're actually going to be inviting our 2020 and 2021 fellows to attend either one of the 2 programs in Singapore and Fontainebleau. So in total, we have 45 Cartier Women's Initiative Fellows who will be attending the ISEP program this year, which is a world record for us, as it is for you, I suppose, Katell. So thank you so much, Katell, Kim, and Jasjit. We're going to carry on now with the rest of the call, which is mostly going to focus on the fellowship program that we're providing and on jury evaluation, among others. So feel free to leave at this point. You can also stick around if you're curious to know what our fellows will be doing in the next few months. And again, we will be making this recording available to the fellows who will be joining the PM session.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, I have to go, but really great meeting you and looking forward to seeing you in a few months. All the best with your work and take care. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone. So next up, I wanted to share a little bit more about the next big milestone for you, which is obviously the second phase of jury evaluation, which is going to be taking place on the week of May 10th. So as you would recall, we did send you a set of guidelines on how to prepare your pitch about, I want to say 2 months ago, mid-March. A few fellows had mentioned not being able to find them, so I will be sending them to you again on Friday. Make sure you read through them. You'll notice that these aren't so much guidelines, but rather tips, because we don't like to give too much structure. You should feel comfortable to sort of innovate and present as you wish based on what you think is most relevant for the jury. As a reminder, on the day of, we ask our fellows to join 5 minutes ahead of time, just so that you have time to set up your presentation, check your audio and your video, and most importantly, greet the jury, right? Because the last time they talked to you was a long time ago in January, and we want to make sure that they're clear on who you are. And another point that I mentioned in one of the FAQs of past emails is that the jury that will be evaluating you during the second round is actually the exact same jury panel that evaluated your business during the first one. And you can find all of their names and bios on our website. So you'll have 15 minutes to present your business, followed by 30 minutes of Q&A with the jury. And then the 8 jury panels, so one for each awards category, would then reconvene a few days later to deliberate behind closed doors and choose the one laureate to represent their region and or thematic category. We expect to be able to notify our fellows by email of the results by May 18th. That would be at the very latest. Most probably you'll hear about us sooner. Just like for the fellows announcement, if you could kindly just make sure you keep that confidential, feel free to mention it to your friends, your family, your colleagues, but we do want to make sure we make that big reveal during the laureates announcement on May 26th. Again, this year, since we had to cancel the awards ceremony, as you know, is going to take place virtually, and Meng will tell you a little bit more about the program we have in place for May 26th. But what I did want to say is that we'd love to still feature our fellows' reactions during that virtual ceremony, but we do have an issue of time zones, right? Since you're all spread across the world, there's not a single time zone that would work for a live talk. So what we came up with as a solution is that we'll be sourcing clips of your reaction ahead of time. So McMenday will be sending an email to you on May 18th, which is the same day you'll be notified of the results. And they'll share a few guidelines on what type of content they're looking for and some instructions on how to film it. And then our laureates will be expected to send their footage, their user-generated footage, to McMenday by May 21st. I'll put all these dates in an email, by the way. So that means there's a 3-day turnaround time for you to get that footage to McMenday. And the reason why it's such a short time frame is because we do still need to then include it in the final edit of the award ceremony. But also we feel like it's more genuine if it happens just after you learned the news. And then a week later, so on the week of May 31st, our fellows will have an opportunity to reconnect with their jury to sort of discuss, have a frank and open discussion with your jury as to, what they liked about your business, what they perhaps didn't like so much. And then generally speaking, we also want our jury members to provide connections for our fellows. So this will be a 30-minute individual session for each and every fellow. I know that I had a few questions about this. I'm just going to preempt. Some people wondering, when they would be doing their presentation and at what time. So just so you know, our jury members are booked for 3.5 hours on any given day. And you actually should have normally already received a calendar invite for your specific time slot. If you haven't received it yet, please make sure you reach out to INSEAD. I also had a question about the order. So, we decided just to play it fair to use an alphabetical order by last name. The only exception being for some of the far-reaching regions where time zone was also taken into consideration, such as for New Zealand. But that is basically the only exception we made. In terms of what we're looking for in the presentation, like I said, we aren't going to give you a structure, but you will find in the guidelines that I sent out in March a few articles or basically online suggestions of structures that have been tried and tested by such organizations such as Sequoia Capital, for instance. So if you want to check those out, please feel free to do so, but please keep in mind that there's no neat one-size-fits-all solution. Another point I wanted to make, because I know I get this question quite a bit, is we're not necessarily expecting you to have all of the answers to jury members' previous questions. So I know that they raised quite a lot of questions about your business during the first round evaluation. And they did also maybe highlight a few potential threats and weaknesses. And what they're really expecting here is for you to explicit the thought process that went into the recent strategic changes that you made to your business as a result of that feedback, rather than just saying, yep, I figured it all out, because I think, that might seem even disingenuous. And then a final point, just a quick reminder, is that currently we're consolidating participation reports that we'll send our jury members 1 week before the jury evaluation. So if you don't know what that participation report is, just want to remind you that what we've been doing is we've asked all of our service providers, so Lauren from Simple Startup, Vera, obviously on the Deliver crowd, to send us their feedback on your one-on-one training. And it's really just a matter of knowing whether you attended all the sessions as expected, whether you applied any of the learnings to your business. All of that we're going to consolidate into a single one-pager, which will be shared with the jury members. And I want to share this just because, as you know, you're not just graded on your business, but you're also graded on your character and your leadership qualities. So although 60% of your final grade will be on the business itself, so the impact of your business, the product market fit, the financial sustainability, and et cetera, 40% of your remaining grade will also be on basically whether you're a conscious leader, whether you're open to hearing feedback on your business, and also whether you're open to leveraging all of the different opportunities and resources that Cartier has to offer. So I think we only have 10 minutes left, so I'm actually going to leave the floor to Meng. I know you had the point you wanted to share with the fellows. I'm going to share it for you. So Itzel just wanted to remind you of the fact that she's still awaiting some of the documents for the prize disbursement. And so any fellows that send their documents late will not receive the prize disbursement as expected in, I think it was going to be June, right? So please know that the timeline really depends on when you get all of the paperwork to her. So Meng, do you want to give an update on the virtual gathering and ceremony program?
Sure. Yeah, very quickly, I'll give you an overview of the updates regarding the event that we're hosting in May to celebrate our 2020 and 2021 fellows, especially our 2021 fellows. So first of all, we're very excited to announce the launch of the event website. I'll share my screen, and so this is the main page of the event websites, and we encourage everyone to register. And actually, that is because this website will include a networking chat function which will be enabled 24 hours before the event, which is on the 23rd of May. And we would encourage everyone to leverage this networking chat function to connect with, for example, potential people who could be of interest to yourself or your company. And here you can see the full program, check out the speakers, and also view all the founder showcases. So yesterday, most of you, all of you actually have received an email from me regarding the virtual booths. So as this is our annual event and we are looking to thousands of people who will attend, thousands of people who are interested in knowing more about the impact entrepreneurship space. So there will be a relevant audience to our cohort of women impact entrepreneurs. We would encourage everyone to participate in a virtual booth. So basically I've asked for everyone to send me their the PNG format of their logo, a short like company description, and also a handout in PDF if you have any. And then we'll build micro sites on these websites to showcase your company to our audience. So this is optional. We don't require it, but we would strongly recommend it because it is the moment that we will get the most traction and visibility for your companies. So that's the first thing. And then for the founder showcases, so there will be 7 according to different regions. Gabriel is in contact with 3. Kelsey is in contact with 3 categories of fellows, and I also reached out to all the East Asian fellows, including Karina and Natalie. So we'll be following up regarding the next steps. In terms of audience for these founder showcases, is different from the jury evaluation presentations because this is open to anyone who register on the website plus a curated audience. So, so basically, when you click on these founder showcases, you will land on a Zoom registration page, and then anyone who register on the main website can sign up to attend. But at the same time, Gabriel, myself, Kelsey, and also Wenji, we are curating an audience of investors, ecosystem enablers, and potential corporate leaders who are potentially interested in knowing more about your companies. So it will be a combination of highly curated audience plus people who are interested in learning more and who register on the main website. So that's for the founder showcase. And then in terms of the next steps, so yesterday I've sent you the documents required for the virtual booth, and the deadline for that is May 7th. If ever you're not able to send us the logo before, please do let us know, and I will check with our production company if it's possible to update the site after. I think so. So just let us know, and we will make sure to add that after the date. But preferably, we would like to receive them before the 7th of May. Yeah, and then last but not least, we would encourage you to share the link of this website and invite all your networks to attend our virtual gathering and award ceremony. And then I think, Gabriel, you asked me to share a bit more about the rundown of the award ceremony video. So as Gabriel just shared, instead of a live ceremony this year, we have decided to do pre-recorded video and then premiere the video on Wednesday, May 26th. So this is the local time zone in Paris. Every time when you land on this website, you will be able to see your local time zone. This is automatically converted. And then in terms of rundown, we'll have, it's about 1 hour and a half content. So first of all, we'll have some welcome remarks from Wenji, our global program director, and then we'll have a keynote speech from Yara Shahidi, and an artistic performance from a singer-songwriter. And right after the artistic performance, we'll have the 2021 laureate announcements. So our President and CEO, Cyril Vigneron, he will be announcing 4 categories. And then Mercedes, our president CEO for North America, will announce the other 4 categories of laureates. And then there will be a message from Ilian Mihoff, who is Dean of INSEAD, to share a bit more about our strategic partnership with INSEAD. And Sophie Duaho, who is our Managing Director for UAE and India, she will be announcing the pavilion. It's a pavilion that Cartier is sponsoring at the Dubai World Expo. And she will also be announcing the dates for the Cartier Women's Initiative World Reunion in 2022. So normally they're still finalizing the date. It's the very first time that we do a world reunion, gathering all our fellows, the supporters in the program, including jury members, coaches, mentors, etc. It's the very first time that we do that. So we're really excited about that. So we're still finalizing the dates, but the tentative dates are from the 6th to the 8th of March next year, 2022. So Sophie will be announcing the dates, and then we'll end with an artistic performance, which is a mini concert by world-renowned pianist Katell. So that is the rundown of the award ceremony. And then, of course, on the website, you can see, you can check out all the sessions, the panel discussion, the workshops, the talks for the first 2 days of virtual gathering. Yeah, and please let us know if you have any questions about the event.
Yes, so now, unfortunately, it's true, we ran a little bit late with the INSEAD piece, but we do have a few minutes for questions, so please feel free to raise your hand. We'll do our very best to answer these questions. If we don't have time to answer them on the call, we will answer them in the email recap I sent on Friday. So Karina, yeah.
Hi, and I got a question for the presentation. Yeah, is it okay for us to log into 2 accounts, 2 computers to it, because we need to prepare for the Q&A session during the jury panel. So it's fine for us to prepare the like an Excel file or something that I can open to my this computer, and because if I need to search for some document that might be a little too intense for me during that time.
Sure. So you mean, can you share an Excel sheet? Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, because usually I do the presenter through my laptop. Yeah, and but I will also turn on my another computer that with a bigger screen, and then I can. Then if I want to answer the question, so I can, or I can share the screen. So I'm just wondering whether it is okay for us to log into the link with 2 computers.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Yeah, I think maybe just make sure that when you log in on Zoom, you know, there's always a text field where you can add your name. So make sure you're just called Karina on both of your screens. I don't know if one of them might be someone else's screen in your family, but just make sure that that's clear so that the jury members know that it's you appearing twice on screen. And then I think your second question is, can you sort of go back and forth between your slide deck and your Excel sheet? I think that's fine. I mean, you'll have full control over your screen and what you share with the jury members. So as far as I'm concerned, I actually think that's a good idea, especially for the Q&A portion. So, you know, make sure during the presentation, probably just use your slide deck, but then have a bunch of supporting documents that they're ready for the
supporting document for the Q&A session. Yeah. Okay, thank you. And I got another question. It's not related to the jury panel. It's related to, and thank you for the media kit that you sent for us. But I found that one of the folder that is empty. So who can I go for?
And oh no, really? Well, if you want, you can send me after the call the sort of the link to the empty folder, because I think we normally should have filled them all out by now. They might be a few. Actually, maybe depending on a few videos, but any content that has to do with each personal fellow should normally be there. So I think we might be missing a version of the overarching video, for instance, but your folders containing your photos and your videos should be there.
Yeah. Okay.
And if,
I would
yeah,
like
if you want to
invite-
send that directly to me as well, I can just make sure that everything is up there. So I can take care of that, Gabrielle.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Ask a question
Sure.
about the awards ceremony and all of that. Is it going to all be recorded?
Yes, most of the sessions will be recorded.
Okay, amazing. Because the time zone's a little bit, I think they will start about 1 a.m.
Yeah.
for me. 3 days in a row of 1 a.m. starts will be a bit brutal.
No.
Yeah. So maybe I can share quickly a little bit more about that. So almost 100% of the sessions will be pre-recorded. And then the replay of the sessions will be available on the same website for 1 month. So basically until the 30th of June, you will be able to see all the content on the same link.
Okay, amazing. It sounds great.
Yeah, and I believe it's also going to be broadcast on Facebook and on YouTube, right, Meg?
The main sessions, yeah.
Okay, great. Cool. I'll try to get to as many as possible, but
Thank you.
It also feels like, I mean, there's a lot of content there during those 3 days. And obviously, I think the award ceremony is probably the most interesting to you as our, as our fellows. But I'd say feel free to browse through all of the other content and don't feel the need or don't feel obliged to attend all of the sessions or to watch all of them. It's for you to really pick and choose which ones are most relevant to you and your business. And I do believe, Ming, right, that on the event website, there's a way to actually add a session directly to your calendar.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So you can save to your calendar individual sessions instead of the whole thing. And then that being said, I would still recommend everyone to sign up to benefit from the chat function because among the attendees, you'll find many interesting people. And then you'll also be able to search by, for example, sustainable development goals that the person is interested in, the profile of the person. For example, if you want to search for an investor who is based in New York City and who's interested in SDG 4, then you will be able to use the filters to pinpoint that and send private messages to that person.
And Corinne, do you have another question or is your hand still raised from? Oh, I think you're on mute.
Hands down, sorry.
Great.
Yeah, well, right on time or almost on time. So thank you so much, everyone. If you got any other questions, please feel free to send them between now and Friday. I usually like to add any questions I get multiple times into that FAQ recap so that everyone gets to benefit from the answer I provide to any individual fellow. So yeah, please get into the habit of sending me all your questions after these calls so that I can then provide an answer to everyone. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll let you get back to your day, morning and or evening.
Thank you, guys. This was really helpful.
Thank you.
Bye.
This was
Have a
good.
great day.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye,
Take care.
ladies.
Thank you. Bye.